and welcome to a new video. And today we're going to talk about education and more precisely how I would like to change education, like what we should do to change and to make it better from my experience as French students in France, but also as what I heard around country in Europe. And it's also kind of an answer from a video of NJD Jade where she said, what would you do to change education? So I'll kind of answer to that question. So first things first, learning in a furry way. And for me, learning in a furry way, kind of playing, doing games to, I don't know, learn maths or even the alphabet or everything, especially with children, because I think you will get the attention much more with games than just normal study. But we should also do it with like the teenager, with like in like middle school and high school, and adapt the game to the age of the student, and interest them more. Yeah, and maybe it could be also through movies or series as I like, to teach them something, because when you're a teenager, you watch a lot of series and a lot of movies. So I know that some teachers use the adaptation, of some books that we study into movie to kind of, there was a adaptation of this movie, so we kind of watch extra. I know that some of teachers did that, and I think it's really good, And also for the literature, because I had to read a lot of books when I was in school for my French class. And I think they should choose books that interesting teenage, like not really old classic book, because we don't really care of this book at that age. We don't relate to these stories and everything. We would read that later on, but at our age we're not interesting. Like maybe choose books where the character are young, where the character are teenager, so students can relate to them. Then second thing, to let the children choose what they want to study. So I think during the first year of primary school, they have to have like the basic, like learning, counting, writing, all this kind of stuff that's gonna use for everyday life. So this basic kind of stay, through all of their education, so kind of base that they need. But once again, this base learn with games and that interests them, so they kind of like them, And then everything else, like, you let them discover during their first year of primary school, so they kind of, discover, and for maybe a year or two, to know if they like it or not, and then they can choose, and it can be like everything, like science, history, and also art, also kind of related to that, is that had more art. So like, and more hours, because I had like 1 hour of music and 1 hour of fine art when I was in middle school, and I loved fine art and I wanted to have more. So in high school I was able to have like 3 hours of fine art. It was like an option that we could take, and I was so happy about it. So maybe, like fine art, dance as well, theater, music, writing, everything, because art is really important. Philosophy as well. In France we have philosophy, but we have philosophy only our last year of high school, and I think it's way too late, and we should have philosophy like in middle school, even primary school, because it's so interesting to kind of think by yourself, because it's really important in life, and also because it's kind of a hard subject to understand. And like for the final exam that we have at the end of high school, if we could have discovered this subject earlier on, it would be easier, because we also have history, science, but this subject we kind of studied them. We started studying them in primary school, so we know very well about them. But philosophy, I never understand why it's only in the last year. And then it's when we are in high school to kind of have class to learn about adult life, because it's kind of hard. So I think learn how to manage budgets, because I know that some parents kind of do that, mine didn't really do. So when I was a student and they gave me money to kind of live, I was not really good at dealing with this money, and I was maybe spend a lot too much. So kind of it took me kind of years to adjust and to learn how to manage a budget. So if we could like kind of learn that in high school, and also how to pay bills, how to pay taxes, all the admin stuff, everything about adult life, like maybe also how to I don't know, clean your house or maybe some cooking. I know that parents kind of are meant to do that as well, but not all parents do, so or can't. So yeah, kind of learn to deal adult life. It would be so much useful for us before we kind of go into like uni life and kind of adult life by ourselves, because when you live with your parents, it can be hard to deal with your adult life. Another thing is that students can learn things to other students that is not a teacher who kind of have knowledge and the power, because most school around the world, I would say, you have like the teacher face to the students, all sitting in a chair, and they're kind of up in front of a board and saying the lesson. And it's kind of boring. This is why I say earlier, playing and not this. I think best thing would be like, for example, once a week, so children or teenager, no matter if you're primary or middle or high school, is to like the children that they want, that wants to kind of talk about a subject, explain that they like, and it should something new, something that maybe the other students don't know about, and it could be anything based on their passion and what they like. If they like more science, if they like more music, if they like, I don't know, tennis, or particular sport, anything, and they kind of, and if they want, they can also do games, to explain this to the other student if they want, if they have an idea, but if they just want to kind of get up and talk about it, that's fine. And they can also use like pictures to show, things, and I think it's better, to have pictures. It's kind of attract the attention of the other children, and yeah, I think it could be really good. I know that last year my cousin who is in middle school, teacher did something like that, and she talked about K-pop because she loves K-pop, so that's pretty good, I think. Yeah, that's not only the teacher have the knowledge and the power, but that the children also know things outside of school, because I don't know, they watch something on the TV, on YouTube, they have apps will learn them things, or with books or anything, Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you like it. Tell me in the comments what would you change in education, in school, and tell me where you come from and how is school in the country that you come from. I found this really interesting. Yeah, put thumbs up. Bye, and I see you next time in another video.